While trying to find food for her cub, a mother bear is attacked by a swarm of bees and uses her claws to try to get rid of the insects. Despite being attacked, the mother bear remains committed to her mission, and after much insistence, she finally manages to reach the honeycomb, which serves as food for her and her cub. In an attempt to find more honeycombs, the mother bear starts digging and ends up causing a cave-in. During the accident, several rocks fall on top of her, but the cub manages to escape in time and is unharmed. When he realizes that the ground is stable again, Yuki approaches his mother's body and tries to wake her up, but he doesn't have enough strength to move the rocks. While alone next to the body, the cub falls asleep in the hope that the mother bear will wake up at any moment. However, as this doesn't happen, at dawn Yuki realizes that he will have to learn to fend for himself and heads down the mountain in search of shelter. When he sees a frog jumping in the forest, the cub gets distracted and starts running after it, but the amphibian isn't playing around and jumps into the water. Seeing the frog swimming to the other side of the lake, Yuki tries to catch up with it, but soon discovers that it can't swim and has to return to dry land, where it continues to play on its own until the sun goes down. When night falls, the little one climbs a mountain so he can rest away from predators and has horrible nightmares about the frogs he saw that day. Now that his mother is no longer around, Yuki feels so vulnerable that any unknown animal poses a threat to him. A few kilometers away, two hunters light a fire and set up camp to rest after a long day's work. While Bill removes the skin from the bear he captured hours ago, his son Tom maintains the weapons to continue the hunt the next morning. As soon as the sun rises, Yuki rides down the mountain and runs to a flower bed to make new discoveries, as his curiosity is increasingly piqued. At that moment, the hunters are riding through the forest when they find a gigantic footprint, which probably corresponds to a male brown bear weighing around 750 kilos. Nearby, the pair also find the animal's droppings and Bill comes to the conclusion that it passed by about an hour ago, so it can't be too far away. Hiding among the large trees, Carr looks for something to eat for breakfast and feasts on the mushrooms he has just found. After eating, the bear is resting in the shade of a tree when suddenly a pine cone falls on his head. As he looks up to try to understand what has happened, he spots a squirrel and realizes that the small rodent was responsible for the attack. At that moment, Carr decides to leave, and after walking for a few meters, he decides to stop and scratch his back on the trunk of a tree. His weight is so great that while the bear is rubbing himself, the whole tree begins to sway, and thanks to this, the hunters are able to locate him with the aid of binoculars. After tying their horses to a tree, Bill and Tom grab their guns and set off on foot to begin the hunt. When they are still several meters away, Carr begins to smell the humans, but doesn't consider them a threat. While the animal is absent-mindedly eating some fruit, Tom prepares to shoot and pulls the trigger. After firing, the bear is hit in the left shoulder and screams in pain. Hearing the roar, Bill approaches to find out what has happened and discovers that Tom has shot it without his permission. Frightened by the attack, Carr flees and Bill scolds his son for not waiting for him, as together they would have succeeded in the hunt. As the shot was a glancing one, the bullet didn't lodge and Carr managed to escape. Frustrated at the missed opportunity, Bill says that the young man won't be able to find his target, because now that he knows he's being hunted, the bear will be on full alert. Just then, the pair hear a frightening noise and run to the place where their horses were left. When they get there, they find numerous bloodstains and realize that one of their animals has been eliminated by something. Luckily, the second horse managed to survive the attack and Bill helps him up. Meanwhile, Tom sets out to find the predator that attacked the animals and his father comes across the remains of one of the missing horses. Soon afterwards, Tom finds the third injured horse by a waterfall and tries to calm it down, but it ends up falling and twisting his foot. Frightened, the animal runs back into the forest and Bill manages to hold it. Minutes later, the young man comes limping out of the woods and Bill is overcome with a sense of revenge. Instead of abandoning the hunt and returning home with his son, the man decides to take revenge on the bear, as he concludes that it was the one who attacked his horses. While looking for a place to hide, Carr passes by the flower bed and ends up being caught by Yuki, who immediately decides to go after him. As he is completely alone, the cub tries to make friends with Carr, as this is the first time he has met another of his kind since he lost his mother. However, due to the pain he is feeling, Carr is not friendly and tries to drive Yuki away with his roars. What the bear doesn't know is that he's facing an insistent cub, and even after being chased away, Yuki continues to pursue him. Seeing Carr crossing a stream, the cub tries to catch up with him, but as he struggles to reach the other side, he gets stuck on a rock. Afraid of being swept away by the current, Yuki can no longer move and starts screaming for help. As no one appears to rescue him, the cub jumps into the water and tries to swim to the other side, but the flow of water doesn't allow him to complete the crossing and Yuki almost drowns. Luckily, he manages to cling to a rock he finds in the middle of the stream and is once again stranded. At this point, Car is a few kilometers away and stops his escape when he finds a mud puddle, where he lies down to try to stop the bleeding from his wound. A few hours later, while the bear is taking a nap to rest, Yuki appears and Car tries to chase him away again. Despite the big one's threats, the cub doesn't let himself be intimidated and approaches him cautiously to try to understand why he's so hostile. When he smells blood, Yuki sniffs the spot where Car was hit and begins to lick it in an attempt to help him recover. In gratitude, Car licks him back, at which point the two begin a beautiful relationship of friendship and companionship. Seeing his son with a bruised foot, Bill advises him to rest and says he'll be back soon with the skin of the bear that attacked his horses. Meanwhile, Yuki and his new bear brother continue their journey in search of shelter, as winter is coming. At dusk, they stop to rest and the cub looks for food in a lake, but can't find anything. On the other hand, Car easily catches a fish and decides to share his dinner with the little one, as he is still learning how to hunt on his own. After lighting a fire, Tom can't sleep for fear of being attacked by a predator at any moment. Suddenly, he hears an animal approaching and starts to shoot, but soon realizes that he has been startled by a tree trunk floating in the lake. In the morning, Car decides to teach the bear cub hunting techniques, and when he sees a herd of deer approaching, they both crawl slowly towards them. When they notice the presence of the predators, the deer run into the woods in order to lose sight of the bears, but Car manages to catch up with them and captures his prey. That afternoon, the pair feast and then take a nap, as they both need to rest before continuing their walk. Knowing that there are hunters on the loose in the forest, Car has the idea of climbing the mountains, as he knows that this way the humans will have a harder time finding him. Now that he's with Yuki, the bear has to think of strategies to keep him safe, as he knows the cub is an easy target. On the way, Car spots a she-bear and uses his incredible strength to cut down some trees in an attempt to impress her. Seeing his brother bear felling the trees, Yuki looks for a bush his own size and tries to do the same, as he wants to follow his example. However, when the she-bear moves away, Car runs after her and the cub is left alone waiting for his friend to return from his moment alone with the female. In the meantime, Yuki spots some mushrooms in the middle of the forest and decides to have a snack. What the cub didn't realize was that these mushrooms were quite different from normal, and soon after eating, he began to feel sick. Without understanding what is happening, Yuki starts to see some colorful mushrooms floating right in front of his eyes and is confused when he realizes that the mushroom is turning into a butterfly. A few minutes later, he manages to recover and notices that some heavy clouds are approaching. When it starts to rain, Yuki gets up and runs in search of shelter. At dusk, he sees his brother the bear sleeping with his girlfriend and decides not to disturb them, but stays nearby so as not to lose sight of him. In the morning, the cub sees Car leaving and runs after them so that they can continue their walk together. Meanwhile, Tom is still alone in the camp waiting for his father to return and hears a noise coming from the other side of the river. Frightened, the man takes out his binoculars to check if there is any danger nearby and sees Jonas approaching in a boat full of dogs. Hours later, Bill shows up and Tom realizes that his father has contacted his uncle to ask for reinforcements. During the rest break, Car takes the opportunity to bathe in a stream and Yuki starts playing with a turtle he finds nearby. However, the break is interrupted when Car begins to smell something unfamiliar and walks towards it to try to identify what is going on. A few kilometers away, Bill and Tom follow Jonas and his pack of dogs, who are sniffing out the escaped bear. When they realize that the barking is getting closer and closer, the Bear brothers decide to hurry and climb the mountain at high speed. During the climb, Yuki gets scared and slips while trying to hold onto the rocks, but a few minutes later, he manages to reach the top. There's still a long rocky path ahead, but while Yuki is climbing, the dogs appear and start running after him. Seeing the little one in trouble, Car waits for him to finish climbing and pushes some rocks at the dogs. Even after being hit, some of the dogs continue their journey and attack Car, while Yuki hides in a small cave formed between the rocks. While the cub trembles with fear, his older brother confronts the dogs and knocks them off the mountain. Seeing the bear on top of the mountain attacking his dogs, Tom grabs his rifle and prepares to shoot, but gives up when he realizes he's running the risk of hitting one of the dogs. In the company of his father, the man climbs the mountain and passes the cave where Yuki is hiding, but neither of them notices the cub. At this point, Tom realizes that he won't be able to catch up with the bear anytime soon and decides to go down the mountain with his father. Along the way, they both spot Dixie and realize that the animal is seriously injured. Knowing that no treatment will be able to keep him alive, Bill decides to end the animal's suffering and Tom is deeply saddened, as he had a deep affection for that dog. As soon as the hunters leave, Yuki comes out of hiding and sniffs Car's footprints to try and find him. At that moment, the cub is spotted by Bill and Tom, who hatch a plan to catch him. That night, the pair return to the camp and use a rope to keep Yuki tied up with the horses. Despite being frightened, the cub doesn't let himself be intimidated and stands firm while waiting for his older brother to return to rescue him. At dawn, the hunters hear some barking and realize that their dogs are returning. Terrified by all the noise, Yuki climbs the tree trunk, because he knows that these animals pose a great threat. On seeing the state of his animals, Jonas comes to the conclusion that the grizzly bear they were chasing is still alive, as the dogs are badly injured. After surviving the attack of an entire pack, Car goes after the humans to rescue the cub, as Yuki's scent has led him to the camp. At dawn, while the predators are sleeping, the cub climbs down from the treetop where he was hiding and runs towards the bearskins that Tom and Bill have hunted. However, as it is tied by a rope, the cub can't reach the skin and tries to gnaw the rope to free itself. In the morning, Tom realizes that Yuki is no longer trapped and is surprised to see him sleeping among the body parts of other bears. At that moment, the man takes some milk and brings the container close to the cub's nose. Smelling this, Yuki wakes up and follows the hunter so that he can feed himself. After breakfast, Bill and Tom head for a certain point in the forest where they believe Car will pass sooner or later. What the hunters don't realize is that the bear has already found their location and has been following them for a few hours. After separating, Bill and Tom climb 2 parallel hills and manage to spot each other through a pair of binoculars. The pair are convinced that Car will show up at any moment to rescue the cub, and when he does, the hunters will spring into action along with Jonas and his hunting dogs. Meanwhile, at the camp, Yuki rummages through the humans' belongings in search of food and starts licking the canned goods. As he can't open the containers, the little one continues his search and destroys the pillows he finds in front of him. Seeing the cub making such a mess, one of the injured dogs, who had been left in the camp to rest, gets angry and starts running after him. Frightened, Yuki tries to get away, but as they are both tied to different trees, they end up tangled in the trunks and are trapped facing each other. A few hours have passed since Bill and Tom set out on their hunt, and as the day progresses, the temperature rises more and more. After drinking all the water in his canteen, the hunter decides to climb a waterfall to cool off and is so distracted that he doesn't notice the bear approaching. At that moment, Car finds the perfect opportunity to get rid of his enemy, because as well as being alone and with his guard down, Tom is a long way from his rifle. Terrified, the man tries to find an escape route, but realizes that the only way to escape is to jump over the cliff. So he picks up a rock and decides to attack, as this is his only chance of survival. However, when he realizes that his opponent is much bigger and stronger than him, Tom simply decides to surrender and lowers himself to the ground while he awaits his end. However, to his surprise, instead of attacking him, the bear just uses its roar to scare the human, and after threatening him, Car leaves. Seeing the bear walk away, Tom is relieved and can hardly believe that he got out of that situation alive. He immediately runs to get his gun and prepares to shoot. However, when he has his target in his sights, the hunter decides to return the favor and lets Car go. At that moment, he fires 2 shots upwards to tell his father that he has eliminated the animal. But Bill appears just in time and sees that the bear is still alive. The man was attracted by the noise of the shots, but realizes that Car is still moving and prepares to eliminate him. However, before his father has a chance to pull the trigger, Tom decides to interfere and stops him from taking the animal's life. The next morning, the hunters are getting ready to leave, and while Jonas gets his dogs into the boat, Tom frees Yuki so that the cub can return home. The problem is that the little one is lost and doesn't know which way to go to find his big brother. So Yuki decides to follow the hunters and Tom scares the cub away so that he can return to the forest. However, soon afterwards, Yuki tries to follow them again, but he can't run as fast, so he ends up falling behind. Once again, Yuki is alone and totally lost, not knowing what to do or where to go. While looking for his brother bear, he is spotted by an adult cougar and becomes its target. When he realizes he is being followed, the cub tries to escape and runs to a river, where he spots a tree branch that can be used as a bridge. When he tries to cross it, Yuki realizes that he won't be able to reach the other side, as he has to jump if he wants to reach the rock. While the cub is at the end of the tree, the cougar approaches and manages to surround him. Luckily, the branch breaks and the little bear falls into the water. Once again, Yuki despairs at not knowing how to swim and is swept away. As he floats on the branch, he is followed by the feline, who is determined to catch him. When he sees that the current is leading him straight into the predator's clutches, the cub jumps into the water and swims to shore, but the cougar manages to catch up with him. At that moment, Yuki is attacked by the predator, and when he realizes that he won't be able to escape, He starts screaming to try to drive it away. Luckily, just then, Car appears and, seeing that gigantic bear approaching, the feline decides to run away. Seeing his brother bear again, Yuki is relieved that he is no longer alone and runs towards him.